Want to know the latest and hottest music hitting the airwaves? Don't be left out. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast. Jordan and Keith keeps you on the loop with everything you need to know.
Jordan and Keith.
From pop, rock, hip-hop, and the top 40. And we'll throw in news of your favorite artists, concert and tour dates, and so much more. Listen no further, because this is the gold standard in music podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Music Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by adamandeve.com, where for a limited time only, you'll get 50% off of just about any item when you type in the promo code MUSIC, M-U-S-I-C, at checkout. Again, this is the GSMC Music Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah, and today I will be talking about the new albums from Maroon 5 and Sam Smith. I hope you're having a great week so far. It is Tuesday, and it's already a week into November. I don't know what to say about that, except that it's Tuesday, and it's already a week into November. Like I said, I hope you're having a good week. I hope that your Tuesday isn't feeling like a Monday, which can sometimes happen. And if it is feeling like a Monday, I hope you've got some good music to get you through the work day or whatever it is you're working on today. If it's not feeling like a Monday, if you're having a really good day, I still hope you have music to get you through your day. Music that makes you feel good, music that makes you want to dance, music that makes you want to celebrate. That's what I love about music, is that it represents every emotion we could possibly have. There is a song that will go with that emotion, and you have your favorites, and if you're like me, you have favorites for pretty much every mood that you're in. There's certain songs or albums that you want to listen to depending on what mood you're in. So let's go ahead and get started. We're first going to talk about that new Maroon 5 album, Red Pill Blues. This is their 6th album since they came out with their debut album in 2002, Songs About Jane. And wow, 2002. So they've been out for 15 years now, which makes me feel a little bit old, but that's okay. Gives me happy memories of grad school when that first album came out. I remember listening to it a lot my first year of grad school. Upon my initial listening of this album, I would say this might be my least favorite Maroon 5 album so far, but that doesn't mean I don't like it, which might come out sounding a little weird. It always takes me a little while to get into a new album, and so I have to listen to it many, many, many times before I really start hearing all the different nuances and things that I am going to end up loving about an album. And I'm not quite there yet with this album, despite many listenings of it. It's really good in a lot of ways. It's very mellow. And I think that's my initial reaction of, oh, this is different. This is a little bit strange. It seems a lot more mellow than some of their last albums. I tend to think of Maroon 5 as that music that I love to turn on in the car and listen to really loud. Now, of course, not all of their songs are like that. It's not like they've never done a mellow song before. They certainly have. They've done ballads. They've done those types of things. But this seems a little bit more low-key maybe than some of their other albums. And so it's taking me a little bit of getting used to. Another thing that I noticed about this album is that it has a lot more production sound to it. It is there's a lot of synth. One line I read was that it has a lot of synthy bass lines, and it does seem to have a lot of production value to it. And I'm not making sense. They've definitely evolved their sound, and as bands grow, they should evolve their sound. Of course, they're going to evolve their sound. But generally speaking, it generally sounds like the band. You can usually recognize a band even as their sound evolves. And that is true here. They have evolved, and they have managed to, they've got great members. There are 7 members in this band, and they're all extremely talented. So they're able to combine all of those talents into this whole experiment with their new album. And so it's a 15-song record, and it's definitely the most electronic to date. So I think maybe that's what was partially throwing me off, and also with it seeming like it was a little more low-key. Again, just because I say this might be my least favorite so far doesn't mean that I don't like it, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to like it. It's just my initial take. And there's some really great songs. There are a lot of collaborations on this album, which I appreciate. I always find it fun and kind of enlightening when groups or artists work with other artists. So you get a little bit of a different sound, you get a little bit of a different feel combined with your favorite band, kind of opens you up maybe to some new artists. So as I said, this is a 15-track album, and 6 of those are collaborations. One that I'm sure you've heard is the one that they have out on the radio now, which is Don't Want to Know, and that is with Kendrick Lamar. So you get that, and you're probably thinking, well, that's not really that mellow, and it's not. I would say that's one of the more upbeat songs on the album, and I don't mean upbeat as in all the other songs are depressing. They're just a little more low-key in terms of tempo and mood, I would say. So other featured artists, Julia Michaels is on the track Help Me Out. There's also Lunch Money Lewis on the Who I Am track, and then a song called Whiskey with A$AP Rocky. So there are some collaborations, which is fun. You get a different feel to that. Something that I thought was kind of amusing about the album cover is that you get these sort of very serious faces of all 7 of the band members, but then they're overlaid with Snapchat filters. So none of them are really smiling on the album cover, but then they have the puppy face, and one of the band members has the flowers, and it's just kind of funny, and I think it speaks to the way, we have kind of come to just accept Snapchat filters as sort of normal, and it's definitely a comment on social media, and I'm not saying it's a commentary, it's just a comment, and it's something that's very popular right now, and we express ourselves through social media. And I read somewhere that Adam and his wife tend to trade Snapchat photos when they're away from each other, which I think is adorable because lots of couples, I'm sure, do that. So there was an explanation by the lead guitarist, James Valentine, who says that the title, Red Pill Blues, is references The Matrix. And so he says that title lent itself to a cover with more of an underlining meaning. And he says that they also didn't want to take themselves too seriously, so hence the Snapchat filters. And so his quote is, "The Matrix analogy alludes the fact that we're kind of seeing things through these different filters, and we're presenting these different versions of ourselves to the world through social media. But also, it kind of just looks funny." And he's right, because they're very, very serious. There are no smiles. There's maybe a smirk here or there, but very serious pictures. And then you get the Snapchat filters. So that's an aside, but it made me laugh, and really I appreciate things that make me laugh, and I like it when a group doesn't take themselves too seriously, as this group seems to be doing with their album cover. So, like I said, it's a little more electronic than some of their other albums. The song that might make you think most of their first album, Songs About Jane, which I know a lot of people really would love a Songs About Jane 2 of some sort. That is probably the track Denim Jacket. And it is a ballad, electronic version of a ballad, but it's, it's a song of lost love, but there's also, there's regret because it's lost love, but there seems to be a bit of hope in that. And so that might be the one that's most reminiscent of that first album that is so beloved by so many people. So again, that is my take on Maroon 5's Red Pill Blues. I am going to listen to it many, many, many more times because I like Maroon 5 and I like their music, and I want to get to know this album better and figure out what exactly I love about it and where it is that I was thinking, this seems just a little bit different. I'm not sure what I think here. So that's kind of how I approach music. I have to listen to it a lot before things really start just getting into my head and sinking in, and this album is no different, which is fine because I love to listen to albums multiple times and learn them in new ways and experience them in new ways, hear things that I hadn't heard before. So definitely, if you're a Maroon 5 fan, go pick it up. If you've never listened to Maroon 5, I don't see why not. Give it a shot. It might, I don't know why it wouldn't be what you're expecting if you've never listened to them, but it's a fun album, so go pick it up. We are going to take our first break of the podcast, but when we come back, we'll be talking about Sam Smith's new album. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the GSMC Music Podcast. Quick question for you. Are you looking to spice things up in the bedroom? Have you been fantasizing about surprising your lover with a new toy or maybe a new adult movie? Well, we've got an offer for you that you won't be able to resist. Just go to adamandeve.com, and for a limited time only, you'll get 50% off of just about any item. Which isn't all. Nope, there's more. Because when you select your one item at 50% off, you'll also receive 3 free adult DVDs, plus a free extra gift so sensual that I can't tell you what it is on this podcast. It's a mystery gift. To top it all off, though, they will even throw in free shipping on your entire order. No, they're not kidding. So check out adamandeve.com today for this special offer. Get 50% off of one item when you type music for the offer code upon checkout. When you do, you'll get those 3 free DVDs, a free extra gift, and free shipping. Just use that offer code music at adamandeve.com. That's music, MUSIC at adamandeve.com. Welcome back to the GSMC Music Podcast. Before the break, we were talking about Maroon 5's new album, Red Pill Blues. And now I want to move on to the new album from Sam Smith, The Thrill of It All. I think Sam Smith has an amazing voice. He's got one of the most impressive ranges out there, and he utilizes it in ways that are powerful and amazing and makes me want to sing along, even though I can't really match his range, which is good because I only sing in the car, so no one has to hear me. But this is his second album. And I want to read you just a little snippet of the review that Rolling Stone published, just to give you a bit of an overview of the album itself. So the writer here, and that is, let me just double check that because I want to give you proper information, Will Hermes. So this was 5 days ago, Rolling Stone review. Will Hermes writes about this album, where Lonely Hour, that's Smith's first album, led with beats. Thrill of It All opens on lonely piano chords and Smith's whispering high tenor, which sweeps up to falsetto on the pre-chorus, soon echoed by a choir and hand claps. The song Too Good at Goodbyes has gotten over 120 million YouTube plays since its release as a single and establishes the ruling formula for the album, one which Smith laid out on his biggest hit, Stay With Me, an aching lover pleading with a paramour against slow-building gospel pop rapture. He mixes up one last song, adds choral muscle and Memphis brass to a doo-wop strut that echoes Amy Winehouse, as does Baby You Make Me Crazy. On the tortured Burning, which begins with a haunting a cappella, Smith confesses despondency flying up and down his vocal range, each switchback escalating the drama until yet another churchy choir raises the roof. No Peace is a showpiece duet with up-and-comer Yebba, a Harlem-based singer via West Memphis, Arkansas, whose full breakout moment must be close at hand. So I just wanted to give you that overview of what someone else has to say about the album. There are, of course, other tracks on this album, and I know I said in the last segment that sometimes it takes me a long time, or many listenings to an album, and normally that's true. This one would be maybe the exception that proves that rule. I loved it from the first time I listened to it, and I've listened to it multiple times since that first time. It is, I said, I feel like I'm going to say the same things about this album that I said about the last album, except that I'm saying them positively, although I wasn't trying to come across as negative in the last segment. Please don't think I was being negative, but it's also really kind of mellow and, not low key, but it's got these amazing, like it said, it has those piano chords. So it's less electronic than obviously what we were talking about with Maroon 5. It's a completely different album, but definitely less electronic. There are those piano chords, and I love all of the choral arrangements that you've got, these choirs, with the harmony and just the amazing sounds of the choir in the background. I love that in combination with Smith's voice, with the way they've arranged the music. And it's one of those albums where, he's got that voice, of course, and he's got the range, and he's got the emotion, and it feels like whatever mood you might be in, you're going to find a song on this album that might touch on that mood. You've got the drama, you've got the heartache, you've got the doo-wop, which that's on One Last Song, and I was listening to that again this morning, and I was like, oh wow, doo-wop, that's so cool. So I love it. There's so many things I'm babbling because I really, really like this album, and that's unusual for me when I listen to an album for the first time and just fall madly, deeply in love with it. So I'm going to come across as extremely biased in this review because I don't often have that experience. Usually it takes me numerous listenings, and that's just me. That has nothing to do with the artist generally. That's just me, and I actually enjoy being able to listen to albums more and more, like I said, so that I can hear different nuances, I can hear different things about them. I actually want to go back to something that I just said a minute ago, which is that kind of any emotion that you're feeling on this album will be expressed. And if you've heard the album and you're listening to me, you might be thinking, that woman is crazy. What is she talking about? And as I think about it, I don't know. I enjoy this album so much that maybe I kind of projected that all those emotions are in there, because really when you listen to the lyrics, he's so good. He's a lot like Adele in the fact that, well, they both obviously have amazing vocal ranges and amazing voices, but they express their pain in such ways on their albums that it's just so deeply emotional. And so, there are a lot of deeply painful songs on this album in a regard, there's emotional songs in terms of breakups. There's the song Him, which is the first time that he has really openly addressed the fact that he's gay in his music. That's not always explicitly spelled out. It is in Him, and it's this emotionally powerful song of coming to terms with both how God and biological parents might react to a child who's gay, and it's just this very, very powerful song. And the more you listen to it, the more you hear just the pain and the complexity of these emotions. So if you're expecting happy-go-lucky, yippee-skippy, then I lied. You're not going to find that emotion really on this one, even though it does have that doo-wop feel in the one song. So, but it's not so heavy that it just makes the entire album drag you down. I mean, there is enough variety, and you do get sub-themes in there amongst that, the pain and the breakup and all of those things. So you don't feel completely weighed down by the time you get to the end. It's not that kind of a feeling. It's just one of those songs that I love to have playing in the background while I'm working on other things. And as I learn the words, I know I'm going to be singing along obnoxiously. So so here's what I love about it. I love the instrumentation, the piano. I love the choral arrangements in the background. I love the depth of emotion as well as the depths of Sam Smith's vocal ability. So That is what I love about this. And you, of course, could have a completely different opinion, which brings me to, what did you think of this album? What did you think about Maroon 5's albums? I would love to hear your thoughts on if you've listened to them, and if you like them, what did you like about them? If they're not your favorite, why? Please leave your remarks to, constructive criticism rather than just I hated it or whatever it is, right? So I would love to hear from you. You can find us on social media, as I say at the end of every episode. You can find us on Twitter and Facebook especially, probably the easiest places to leave comments. So I would love to hear from you. In the meantime, we are going to take our second break of the podcast, but when we come back, I'm going to wrap up the episode and talk a little bit more about my own personal experiences with music. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back with the GSMC Music Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Music Podcast. We are talking this week about the new Maroon 5 album, Red Pill Blues. I keep doing that. And Sam Smith's new album, The Thrill of It All. And now for this last segment, I want to do, like I did last week, just a little bit from a personal standpoint about my own music experience. And I like to think that I have a fairly eclectic tastes in music. I think everyone tends to think that. I think they tend to think that, and I think it's true in some ways, because everyone has taste in music that's unique to them. Not, probably two people are not going to have the exact same combination of songs, albums, and genres on their MP3 player or iPod or whatever it is that you have as the next person. So everyone, once you start scrolling through someone else's music collection, there's going to be things that are instantly recognizable and things that you have never, ever heard of and just seem weird, right? So everyone has, to a certain extent, an eclectic taste in music. Mine has really been influenced, like I said last week, by my dad and his taste in music. He played drums, and he was in several bands. I remember growing up, and I grew up in Montana, so he played in a lot of bars, and I remember going to a bar once with him when he practiced. It was during the day, so there was no one there, but it just had that dingy, weird bar feeling in the middle of the day. I was very little, but I also remember falling asleep in his bass drum when they were practicing at the house once, because there was a pillow in there, and I thought that looked like a good place to take a nap. They were practicing, and I fell asleep in the bass drum. That, I don't know what that says about me, except that I can still to this day sleep through darn near anything. So, at any rate, from my dad, I get that love of older music. He loves blues. He loves music from the 50s and 60s. He loves Zydeco. He does have a very interesting taste in music, and I don't always agree with everything that he loves, but he really instilled in me a love of some of that older music that isn't from my lifetime, but is from his generation, and I grew up loving it. Then, of course, I grew up, in the 80s and 90s, and so started learning. Again, growing up in Montana, there's not a lot of great radio stations, and this was before streaming and all of those good things, so you didn't always know what the new thing was, and my family didn't have cable, so we didn't have MTV, so my growing up experience was really more of my dad's generation of music. That's what I tended to listen to, since we couldn't get very good radio station reception in my hometown. Since I've gotten married, I now have learned more about 80s rap than I ever thought I would know in my lifetime. And I have heard a lot more than I ever heard growing up. I love listening to what other people love and learning about new genres. I love gospel music. I love soul singers from the 50s and 60s. Like one of my favorite people to listen to is Sam Cooke, and most people, maybe don't even know who he is nowadays. That was one of the selling points when I first met my father-in-law, was that I loved Sam Cooke, and so does he. So that bonded us right away. And that's the thing. Music can bond you with people when you find things that you have in common. I also love Celtic music. I love Scottish bagpipes. I just like what I like, and that's true of everyone. So this may sound obvious, but it's just that for me, music is about how it makes me feel. It's about what it makes me think of. And I also love to sing. So I have certain songs, especially that I love to sing, certain songs that I love to sing when I'm like happy and really want to get pumped up, and you can sing them really loud in the car. I have a playlist for those times when I'm feeling maybe a little weepy, but I still want to sing and I want to kind of belt it out there and release all those feels. I love to sing, and I find it therapeutic. And for me, that is what music is. It's therapeutic. It is expressive of whatever emotion that you are having that you maybe can't have, or that you can't express yourself. That music expresses it for you. So again, it's about memory, it's about nostalgia, it's about therapy. And that's kind of my take on what I love about music. So I would love, again, to hear from you. What do you listen to in all of those different moods? What did you listen to growing up, and how is that affected by the people around you? Did you love your parents' music? Did you hate your parents' music? What influenced your tastes in music, and how has that evolved as you have grown up and grown out of certain phases of your life, etc.? I would love to hear these stories. So, hit me up on social media and let me know. That's it. I think I'm going to wrap it up for this episode. I want to thank you for joining me as we discuss those new albums from Maroon 5 and Sam Smith. I hope you will join me again next week. I'm going to be listening to and talking about the new albums from Taylor Swift and The Corrs. So join me again next week. In the meantime, you can find all of our podcasts at www.gsmcpodcast.com. You can download those podcasts on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, any app that you use for your mobile device, and you can follow us on social media. Follow us and interact with us. We would love to hear from you. Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Please join me again next week. But in the meantime, go out there and just sing your heart out to whatever makes you happy. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Music Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.